Could I get a motion to open the meeting, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Please stand for the pledge. Good evening, everyone. It is May 7th, 2024. We are here at the Mahopac Board of Education for our annual budget hearing. Notice is hereby given that a public budget hearing of the qualified voters of the Mahopac Central School District will be held at Mahopac High School Auditorium, 421 Baldwin Place Road, Mahopac, New York, Tuesday, May 7th, 2024, 7 p.m. for the presentation of the 2024-25 budget and public commentary. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Superintendent Toner for our budget presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So Alyssa Murray, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operations, and I will present the budget once again as part of our proposed budget for the public hearing for the 24-25 school year. So here you could see the summary of our budget development process, and each time we've done a presentation, we've golded out another line, and here we are at May 7th for the annual budget hearing. And here are the budget priorities: to maintain all academic programs and extracurricular activities, expand opportunities for high school curriculum pathways, continue our bus replacement schedule, ensure that components of the strategic plan are funded so that we can enhance the overall student experience, complete our transition to the new mascot, which is due by June of 2025, and balance the needs of the educational program with the fiscal needs of the community. So here we'll start with just a summary. Our proposed budget is $142,443,564, and that represents a 3.25 budget-to-budget increase, and a tax levy increase of 1.98%, which is less than the maximum allowable tax levy limit. In fact, it's $572,874 less than what could be brought as a tax levy. So looking at some of the highlights to the budget, at curriculum and instruction, we're looking to add a library media specialist. In the 23-24 budget, we added one for our elementary schools. All 5 of our buildings now have brand new libraries thanks to the public support of the capital project. Lakeview just had their ribbon cutting ceremony, and the middle school will be having it, I believe, next week. So high school and middle school already had library media specialists. We did not have any for the elementary schools. We added one for this current year. We're looking to add a second to be shared amongst the 3 elementaries. We're looking to expand phonemic awareness. Right now we're piloting Heggerty. We're going to have it in grades K and 1 for next year. MAP is a progress monitoring system through NWEA, and we're looking to pilot that in grade 5. We're looking to add an art teacher so that we can provide studio and art to our 8th grade students so that they can complete the middle school, head to the high school with the potential for 4 high school credits between algebra, living environment, world language, and then studio art. We are looking to continue our expansion of balanced literacy to provide classroom libraries for our 8th grade English language arts classes. Our district had a site visit from the Air Force several months ago, and we are a candidate to host an Air Force Junior ROTC program here at the high school, which, because we have campus schools for middle school and high school, we have the potential to start that in 8th grade. So we do have the instructors budgeted for half a year so that we can hopefully start the program in the 25-26 school year for students. We're looking to add an additional English as a new language teacher. And then Universal Pre-K program will start in September, but that is completely funded through state aid. That's a specific line in the state aid run that can only be used for Universal Pre-K. We can't use it for anything else. Looking at special education and student support, we have the High School Academy here, which has some of our own Mahopac students, but we also take in students from other school districts, and they pay us tuition, which is a revenue source. So we would like to add another psychologist to support that program, and that will be covered by tuition that we receive. At the elementary level, currently Austin Road and Fulmer Road share one social worker. We'd like to add another social worker so they can each have a dedicated one. We have some middle school special education students with high needs that are moving into, they're aging into the high school, so we need to add a class for them at the high school level. We currently contract out through a vendor for occupational therapy and physical therapy. We are looking to bring at least one of each of those into district so that we can have greater control of having those individuals in the district. They'll be our employees, and it will be a reduced cost overall because we won't have to pay the vendor. The salaries for those individuals would be less expensive than going with a vendor. And we also want to add a speech-language pathologist, again, reducing a vendor cost to help offset the salary for that individual. Looking at athletics, we're looking to create a junior varsity cheer program, a strength and conditioning coach, which is a stipend position for someone to work in the weight room after school hours to support our student athletes. And we've been making the transition with our uniforms for our teams to comply with the mascot mandate, so we need to budget to complete that process for June of 25. Looking at transportation, we're looking to purchase a system scraper so that our buses, when they have snow on the roofs, they can drive underneath and safely get the snow off of the buses before they go out on the roads. Purchase of a tire balancer, and a transition to the TransFinder system, which is for routing, to a web-based program. Looking at facilities, we'd like to purchase an integration system into our building management system for HVAC, continue our exterior door replacement at the middle school, continue abating and replacing floors in various classrooms throughout the district, and we'd also like to add a stipend position for an auditorium manager, which will help coordinate all presentations so that lights and sounds are all working in an optimal way. So we're excited about that. That will also help coordinate potential revenue from community organizations that would like to use our auditorium. Looking at safety and security, we've done an awful lot of work in that area, thanks again to the capital project and the Smart Schools Bond. So we would like to do an assessment to make sure that we didn't miss anything, or are there other areas that we can potentially earmark to improve safety and security even more. We'd like to purchase a security film called Armored One and start getting that around our buildings. So in essence, that film will make the windows shatterproof or close to it. So that's a precautionary measure. We would like to purchase another ranger vehicle. This year we added a security guard that roams our campus here between the high school, middle school, and the falls. And that individual spends a lot of time outside on campus. So we want to make sure that he has a ranger vehicle that has heat for the winter. Currently he's sharing the ranger with our with athletics for, they take it over at 3 o'clock. So we want to have somebody, the vehicle for the security guard all day. And then we're looking at CRG mapping district-wide. That's a program that's used in a lot of the Westchester school districts. It ties into the real-time crime center. What it does is, in the event of an emergency, it allows law enforcement the ability to access cameras and maps that are interactive. So if there is an intruder or a situation, they can isolate that in a quicker way and keep everyone as safe as possible. So here you can see our enrollment as of March 2024 by building. We're looking at a projected enrollment of about 3,877. That's determined by moving all of our current grades up. You can see we're losing quite a large 12th grade class of about 341, and that we're seeing the 11th graders come in a smaller number. And the key to how much our enrollment, it looks like it will go down. It depends on how many kindergartners we get in for September, so we're still monitoring that. Here you can see our enrollment history over the past 10 years. We have lost about 700 students, less 15% change in enrollment. But the past several years, we're staying steady with a little bit of a bump of an increase. Looking at our elementary class sizes, we're trying to keep those as small as possible. And in order to do that, we need to add 2 sections for next year for general education. Now I'll turn it over to Alyssa.
Thank you, Ms. Tona. So now we have the proposed expenditures by category. So as you can see, in the blue and the red is salaries and benefits. That is about 77% of our budget. So that's inclusive of all the collective bargaining agreements settled, and then any that we need to settle for this year. And then a couple other lines that I'll go into in the next chart. So again, this is the same thing, but that was just the pie graph. So as you can see, some of the other things that went up and increased this year was the tuitions. So that's for special education. So based on what our enrollment's looking like, based on the placements, we need to budget for those students incoming that we think are coming. So that's where you see an increase there. And then you see a little bit of an increase in contractual services and BOCES, and that's just contractual obligations that we have to adhere to. This is another way to look at the budget. So this is something we have to do for New York State. So it is categorized in 3 separate categories. So administrative components, which is administrative salaries, Board of Education expenses, auditing, insurance, BOCES, admin and capital, and data processing costs. Then we have program component, which is the biggest component, which we are happy to see. Usually you want that to be above 75% of your budget. Ours is around 83%, which is great. So that's all the instructional salaries, benefits, material supplies, textbooks, sports, BOCES programs, and anything else extracurricular. And then you have capital, which is facility maintenance operations, transfer to capital, and debt service payments, which is what helps us with our bus replacement plan and our capital projects. Here's another pie graph of the revenues by category. So we'll get into these in a deeper detail, but as you can see, our property tax levy is the biggest part of it, 67.88%. Then you have state aid at 28.20%, and then I always like to point out that that green sliver is our quote-unquote savings account, appropriated fund balance. So by New York State, you're mandated to make sure that your expenditures that I just showed you match your revenues. So whatever we need to use in terms of our savings account to equal that, that's what we have to do. So again, this is a breakdown of what you just saw. So state aid went up like $3 million. Then you see the property tax levy, 1.8. So we did actually use less appropriated fund balance this year, which is great because then that gives us more savings in our reserves for other items down the road. Tuition went up, as Ms. Tona said, when we have out-of-district placements for the high school and middle school academies, that's what drives that number. Then a couple other numbers that went up a little bit. So here you have the state aid slide. So this is a slide that I've shown in the past like 3 or 4 presentations. So again, foundation aid is a complex formula that the state calculates for us. So it's mostly driven by enrollment, wealth ratios, things of that nature. So again, that's given to us. Then as Ms. Tona was saying, universal pre-K, and then the rest of the aid is really much expense driven. So whatever we spend in these categories is what we're going to get back from our ratio. So for example, the more you spend in transportation, the more you get back based on our ratio. So some things to point out is that, for example, building aid, hopefully looking for it to increase as the year goes on, because as we close out capital projects and we file that paperwork, that number will go up. So our total aid less the pre-K is a 1.40% increase. So this is the tax levy limit calculation. Hopefully another slide that's familiar to everyone. So with the tax levy limit calculation, that gives us the formula to determine what is the maximum allowable tax levy limit we can calculate, 2.59%. As stated before, we're at 1.98%. So just some background on this formula. A lot of these factors are given to us, whether it's from the state or real property tax. So again, like tax-based growth factor, a number that we're given, and it differs from district to district. The allowable growth factor, another number given to us. So really, what we control in this formula is the capital exclusion amount, and that's based on what we're paying in debt services for our capital project and our other debt we have And that's really the only thing we control in this formula. So as stated before, this is our proposed budget, a 3.25% increase. So everything I've stated is inclusive in that. So every collective bargaining agreement, health insurance rates, anything contractual, BOCES, retirement contributions. So this is, again, to couple with the proposed tax levy increase of 1.98%. So this is the budget and tax levy history. So as you can see, the past few years, we've had increased CPI number. We have a allowable tax levy limit that's a little higher than what we actually levy. So that's kind of been the pattern the past 3 years. Here's another way to show that same information. As you can see, CPI has spiked, but again, our board and the district has kept the actual tax levy limit lower than CPI and the allowable tax levy limit. So this is an estimated tax levy impact monthly and annually. So this is based on the assessed value of $500,000 house or property. So Town of Carmel, the annual change you'll see is $201.02 and a monthly change of $16.75. Town of Putt Valley, you'll see $194.27 annual change and a $16.19 monthly change. So this is based on 2023 assessment information. The new updated information from the town does not come until August, so this is an estimate. So as these, every year when you look at these presentations, you always have that estimated amount. And then this does not also include the newly adopted exemption amounts for veterans, senior citizens, persons with disabilities, and volunteers. So if you don't qualify for any of those exemptions, then this is what you'd be looking for as an estimated annual change. This is a reserve fund summary. So again, back to what I was saying before, this is like our savings account. So we have to categorize by state and by law what we can use our savings account for. So they all have different purposes. So as you can see, from June 30th, 2022 to June 30th, 2023, really the biggest adjustment is the reserve for tax certiorari due to a legal settlement pending. Other than that, all of these accounts are kept in savings accounts where we do gain a lot of interest on them. So our district treasurer does a great job of making sure we're maximizing these dollars. So by law, we have to have a plan as for a contingency budget. So we would have to reduce the current budget by $1.8 million. And what we would have to take from are staff reductions, increased class sizes, reduction of extracurricular activities and interscholastic sports, and eliminate all equipment expenditures. So when you go to vote, you'll see that the first proposition is the budget, which we've talked about already. This is going to be the second proposition, the transportation bus proposition. So this is to continue the bus replacement plan that has been in place for a few years at this point. So it should look familiar. We're purchasing 5 65-passenger buses and 4 30-passenger buses for a total of $1.2 million. All the buses are air-conditioned, and this is just following the plan that we've had in place for the last few years. And so we've replaced 47 buses to date, and we're replacing an average of 80,000 miles and 10 plus years of service. So our plan is really healthy right now, so we're just going to keep continuing it. And so this is something that's probably a little newer, capital reserve fund proposition. This will be the third proposition on the ballot. So the reason why we have to establish a capital reserve fund is if before, when you saw our capital reserve fund on the reserve fund summary slide, that money is that fund is expired, and in order to unlock that a little over $2 million, we need to move it, and to move it, we have to establish a capital reserve fund. So that's the main focus of this reserve. No cost to the taxpayers. We're simply just moving over money that we want to unlock later down the road. This year we have a building condition survey, which is mandated by New York State every 5 years. And what that does is we have an architect come in, look at all of our buildings, making sure, prioritizing what we need done the next couple of years, and then costing everything out. So the plan would be to have this survey done. We can maximize this capital reserve fund to $5 million at some point if we'd like to. and then we would use the information from the building condition survey for this fund, and we use money from this fund to fund that. So inclusive of that would be the bathrooms in the district, all the district-wide. And then this slide is the budget vote history. So as you can see, since 2015, just a percentage of total votes and percentage of the yes votes.
Thank you. So here you can see information if you or someone you know is going to be out of town and require an absentee ballot, or this year there's early mail voting. So even if you are going to be in town and you don't wish to vote in person on May 21st, you can drop off an early voting ballot. The information is on this slide, and it's also on the district website on the district clerk's page. So all absentee ballots and early mail voting ballots must be to the district clerk by 5 p.m. on May 21st. And there are 3 vacancies on the Board of Education, and the 6 individuals that are listed on this slide will appear on the ballot in that order, and they will, the 3 candidates receiving the highest number of votes will serve 3-year terms beginning July 1. So please make sure that you come out and vote Tuesday, May 21st, 2 weeks from today, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. here at the high school in the gym. Does the board have any questions or comments?
I'll try to be brief. So as you can see, there's an awful lot of work that goes into this budget. One of the main things we do as a board is duties we have is fiscal responsibility, and we take it incredibly seriously. We have very financially oriented people on the board, and we take it very seriously. So you can see the type of work that goes into this. So we're very prudent, fiscally managing the budget. So I just want to point out the reserves. So I heard some things this past week about things that were going on in other places. We're in a very strong position here. We have $21 million in reserves. So that's the slide you saw earlier. Some of those are reserved for specific areas. Some of them are, as Alyssa said, it's just in case, and they're saving account. That's a very strong position to be in. So I just want to say, as a board member, we're in a strong position, and we're going to continue to manage in a fiscally responsible, prudent way. The other thing is, the other slide, one of the last slides you saw up there, is the amount of people, the number of people that are voting. So we don't have a lot of control on a lot of things in our lives. So this is one thing we actually do have control of. So on May 21st, you have the power to go in and say what you say and vote the way you want to vote. So I want to encourage you not only to vote, but grab somebody else, grab 2 people, 3 people, not violently, just tell them to go and vote, okay? Because it's our duty to do this for the community, and for, obviously, the most important thing that we're here for is the students. All right, thank you.
Alyssa and Christine, thank you so much for the presentation. I just wanted to tag on to what Ben had said, that we worked very hard on this budget. Chairing the Finance Committee, it was a big initiative to make sure that our tax levy was under 2%, and I'm glad as a board that we came to a consensus to get it below 2%. I just want to talk about on page 14, one of the things that was explained is there was Board of Ed expenses. Can you just explain to the community what that really means? That's not truly Board of Ed related expenses, because sometimes that causes some confusion.
Sure. Good point. So the Board of Education are true volunteers. There is no salary involved, but there are some expenses related to printing expenses, such as budget materials, professional development that the board members attend, if we have a board retreat and invite a speaker in. So those would be some of the items that would be covered under that line.
Sorry. The other thing I wanted to mention is we all in the community received new assessments this week. So I know the assessments that are here in this presentation from last year. So just to be full disclosure to the community, these numbers could be significantly different based on your assessed value changes. Is that correct statement?
So assessed value, we don't have any control
Right.
of. The town determines the assessed values, and as we know, in the past several years, they've been increasing those assessed values. That does not necessarily mean that taxes are going to go up. In a perfect world, if everyone's assessed value goes up at the same proportion, it just means that home values have increased. And if everyone goes up in the same proportion, there won't be a shift in the tax burden. But that's in a perfect world. Do you want to add anything to that, or? Okay,
And that's all my questions. Thank you.
thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone?
Any other questions or comments from the board?
Just thank you to you and your team, the entire cabinet, for a lot of hours put into this budget, and it does clearly benefit the students and the programs. We're bringing some exciting new things here to Mahopac, and please, on May 21st, please come out and vote.
Thank you. And I also want to extend thanks to all the administrators that are not in the room tonight, but we did work with them extensively to understand what the needs were for their departments and their buildings. And I want to commend Alyssa Murray on her first budget here in Mahopac. Congratulations, Alyssa.
Okay, so now we are up to public comment. As a reminder, we ask speakers to adhere to policy 1512. And with that, is there anybody that would like to comment on the budget? Right, please.
Hi. I wanted to thank Superintendent Tona and all the trustees and board. I just wanted to speak on the budget that was passed at 1.9%. I know it's under, originally they were looking at a little bit over 2%, and I think you should know that it was due to great board trustees who suggested that we should try to get it under 2%. And Lucy, Mike Monaghan, Jonathan Schneider, I know I was at the finance committee when they talked about that. It was interesting to see the give and take, and it seemed as if, you know, the school, the finance head and the superintendent felt that they were actually taking it out of their pocket. So it just seemed that when they looked at it, they said if they lose this money, they lose it for the future, and the money does not, it gets lost, and it's forever, and the mathematical loss is monumental. It was quite an interesting discussion, but I'm glad that clearer minds prevailed, and it is going to be under the 2%. As you saw on the slide, there are some big reserves, and especially the certiorari, and I believe that is supposed to be resolved shortly. And I do hope that when it is resolved, that maybe taxpayers can see some of this benefit. For the future, I've noticed in the state budget, they put a fix in for the Tier 6 members, which are going to increase all our school district pension calculations. So that's an additional cost we're going to be seeing, since benefits are a big number in our thing. We're looking to fill 3 board seats, and we want to make sure that you select individuals who are going to represent you, the taxpayer. We don't need to worry about your child's education, because there's an entire school district who can't wait to expand the universe and spend your money. I want you to look closely and vote for candidates who will not just represent the school district, but really question every dollar proposed. Maybe go back to $0 budgeting and not just everything plus a certain percentage. As I've said many times before, enrollment's been down almost 23%. We've never seen costs or even zero budgets increase during these years. Please vote with your pocketbook. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frankel. Is there anybody else?
Hi, I'm Marcia Waltham. I ran for school board last year, after 2 other younger leaders, which I think is important. Oh dear, quiet. said, vote with your wallet, I say vote with your community. A strong school is a strong community. You worry about your taxes, well, worry about your property values. If we don't approve our school budget, then our community is looked at as not supporting our schools. That means that people don't want to come and live here, so your property values go down. And it's also harder to attract good teachers, because if the community does not support the school budget, then teachers don't want to come here because they feel the community doesn't support the schools. Now, we know that the teaching profession is in crisis. It's harder than ever to attract good teachers. We know that that's what makes for a good education. So I admire the work done by the board, by the school administration, to, in spite of remarkable inflation that we faced in other areas, have managed to keep this budget under the cap. And I thank them for that, and I ask that the community continue to support our schools. It's the hallmark of our community.
Thank you, Ms. Waldman. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Please come.
So I am a parent of a student in, Liz Calcanis. I'm a parent of a student, fourth grader in the Fulmer Road Elementary School. I wrote out something a little bit longer, but I abbreviated it a bit, just as we're all here, just to not waste everyone's time. But, so forgive me if I'm speaking about this at the wrong function, but however, as we're discussing an increased budget and maintaining our educational needs for our children, I find myself concerned with some recent news of potentially shrinking and decreasing ICT classrooms in Fulmer Road School for this upcoming fifth grade year, so the 2024-2025 year. If some of you aren't aware, these are the children that started out in the beginning of COVID. They went into elementary school, and their first experience in elementary school was half of a year of kindergarten. They then had barely a first grade year, and for a second grade year, it was all in and out. If you remember, it was like a hybrid schedule, if you will. So that class grade right now, from my understanding, contains a significant number of children that carry ICTs. I believe right now there are anywhere between 15 and 17 kids alone in Fulmer in between the two ICT classes. So the news of it potentially shrinking down and being one leaves me as one, a parent, two, a taxpayer concerned of how all of our children and their IEPs and their all individual specific needs would then be met for this upcoming school year. And to me, as a parent who has a child that has had a bit of a struggle, if you will, just not having the normal childhood experience with their elementary school, fifth grade to me is a pivotal year. This is the year we're getting them ready, we're gearing them up, we're moving them along into middle school. As the child I'm speaking of is my oldest, I don't know what an IEP in middle school looks like versus elementary. And so this is the year I would say is fundamental to keep them with their IEPs and give them all the resources. I've made some steps as a parent to reach out and have gotten very fluffed responses. It sounds like this is what is happening. I just would like to bring it to your attention to know that as a parent, I feel like if that were to happen in this upcoming school year, then we are failing the children in fifth grade moving into middle school. So I'd just like for you to take that and maybe do your own research on it, and I'd further like to discuss it with anybody that's available. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Lana, sorry. I can provide some response to that. Can you still hear me if I hold it this far away? So our special ed classes, we are still finishing up our annual reviews and determination of how many students are going to be in each of the classes, whether it's an ICT class or a special class. We also look at, in the summer, there could be new entrants that come in. So nothing is truly final until we get to August. And we have restrictions on how many students can be with IEPs in each class, and we are certainly going to adhere to that. And certainly, I think I did communicate with you that we're still looking at those numbers, and I am optimistic based on communication and conversations that I've had with Mr. Cole at this point. He's our special education director. So I can't give you any final answers at this point, as everything is still being worked on, but we are certainly aware of the numbers at Fulmer Road.
Is there any other public comment on the 24-25 school budget? Okay, so we're going to move on to some new business. Can you get a motion to approve a proposal for a field trip for the Lakeview Elementary second grade to go to the Maritime Aquarium on May 22nd, 2024, utilizing a Mahopac Central School District school bus? So what's the motion? Yes, so was that second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Need a motion to approve a proposal for a field trip for Mahopac High School music ensembles to go to Six Flags Great Adventure to perform during Music in the Parks on May 31st, 2024, utilizing a charter bus.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, is there anybody that has any other public comment for this evening? Okay. So, again, our work session is next week, May 16th, next Thursday. And please come out and vote May 21st. And we hope to see you at the polls. Thank you, everyone, and have a great night. Motion to close the meeting, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.